Hi everybody, this is Damien from Legend Life. As you know, we're all about telling or sharing the inspirational stories of people who are living their best life after 40. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kim. She's a travel blogger with a blog called The Abundant Traveler. She's traveled to 50 countries across 6 continents. So Kim, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I love this Legend Life after 40 because I started all of this after 40.
And that's the reason we want to talk to you. So show there
Yeah.
is a life after 40 for anyone
There's
who's
a
not
big
convinced.
life. It's a big life and a better life, I think, after 40. So
Great. So
yeah.
how about telling us a little bit about your background? How did you get started, your interest in travel?
Um, my dad's boss when I was little had traveled all over the world, and I would go to their house for dinner and I would see scrapbooks and I would see things from Africa or things from Asia or something like that. And I was so enthralled and excited about what they had, and I didn't know where those things came from. So I think that's where I got the bug to travel. But I ended up traveling overseas during college and studying abroad. And then as soon as I finished my degree, instead of getting the investment banking job on Wall Street I had $300 in my pocket, a one-way plane ticket, and I moved to London.
Very good.
Yeah. I said to my parents I would be gone for about 6 months, and I was gone 5.5 years. So the travel bug it's always been there, but it really hit when I moved overseas, and I just couldn't stop traveling after that.
Okay. So what was the journey to becoming a travel blogger? So you mentioned that you really kind of like changed things at 40 and then decided to kind of go off on a bit of a different track.
Yeah, so I've always had normal careers like everyone. I still have a regular everyday career. But having traveled to so many countries, I've been a tour guide before. I've run side trips and taken people all over the world when I was in the wine business and after. And people call and ask, where should I go? You know how to go here. You know what to do here. Can you tell me where I should go? Where should I stay? What should I pack? What time of year should I go? And so I decided, well, the people on YouTube that I'm watching about travel are 24, 25 years old. What they're doing on YouTube, I did when I was 24, 25 years old. What are the people doing that are 40 and 50 and 60? What are they doing? I want to know what they are doing. And so as a result, I've chosen YouTube to be one of the only people that is 50 on YouTube talking about travel and giving advice and inspiration and hopefully providing value all the time. So now instead of my friends calling me all the time, they can go watch the YouTube videos. So that was the reason behind it,
Okay.
just to be valuable to the world
No,
instead of just
definitely.
my friends. So
Yes, no, definitely there's a market for this or a segment we're not very well catered for. So I think it's good that you're actually providing us with that as a resource. So, well, you've traveled extensively. So what would you say to someone who hasn't traveled yet? So you're certainly a believer in traveling the world, having new experiences. But there's some people may not have taken that first step. So what would you say to them?
typically, the reason that people have not traveled is the fear of not having enough money, having enough time, or a fear of the unknown. And in all reality, you can come up with enough money. If you only have $40 to $50 a day, you can still travel. To get the courage and overcome the fear and the language, you just have to jump in with both feet. And the fear of time, it's a very, I'm in the US, so it's a very American thing not to have a lot of time, extra time, but it's worth taking this time. You just have to have enough courage to get on that airplane. Once you're on that airplane, everything is easier. It's getting on that airplane the first time is the hardest thing. So go ahead and book that flight, book that first couple of nights accommodation, wherever it's going to be. and take the leap. It's worth it. It's so worth it. So
No,
so worth it.
most definitely. So, well, now let's kind of tap into your knowledge base a little bit here. So, having traveled to 50 countries, you're probably, got some top destinations for yourself and top things to do, especially for our age group. So, what would your recommendations be?
So top destinations are typically there's some value money. Most of the people that are looking to understand travel speak English, so we're going to countries that they do speak English as a second or third language, but they're pretty good at that. And something that is very foreign to what you know um, is typically the reason that I pick countries in general. I think everyone mentions Thailand, but Thailand is amazing because there are different things to do. The culture is extremely kind and generous. It's relatively inexpensive, and you can go to the beach or you can go up in the highlands. And culturally, it is extremely different than a typical Western lifestyle. And the food is also amazing. So I think that Thailand is a great option. I think that South Africa is also a great option. They, again, you can go at any price level you want to go to South Africa. And the first time that you go to Africa, and I find South Africa easier than sort of East Africa to go to that part of Africa. And the first time that you're in a Jeep and you see an elephant, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's nothing like seeing one of those animals, a giraffe, like crossing the street as you're in your Jeep at 6 o'clock in the morning, like it's a dog walking by. There's nothing, absolutely nothing like that in the world. And South Africa, if you're going to go to Africa, which is a big bucket list item for a lot of people, I would recommend South Africa over some of the other countries. So those are a couple that are unique and different, little bit off the beaten path necessarily, and maybe not something that somebody would think of instantaneously.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely.
easier. Your first trip, you want to go something that's not so hard on you. You know, I could recommend going to India, but going to India is hard on anybody. It doesn't matter how many countries or how many languages or how, going to India is hard work. So I think when you start off, you want to go to somewhere that is easy on you and easy on your system and easy, but has amazing eye candy and all of that. Lots of
Yeah.
culture and interesting people.
So when you travel, you're looking more for the scenery, the culture, or what kind of things are you looking for when you travel?
Typically, one, I tend to pick something I want to do and then find the coolest place I can find to do it. And then I go and do it there. For example, I had never bungee jumped before, and somebody said, "You've got to bungee jump the Zambezi River in Zambia. It's the highest bridge jump in the world." And I went, "Oh, okay, I'm going to Zambia." So I ended up in Zambia simply to bungee. I wanted to scuba dive, learn to scuba dive, and somebody said the best place to learn is to go live in Dahab, Egypt for a few weeks, get your regular, your certified and your advanced, and go spend like 3 weeks in Dahab, Egypt. And I went, okay, well, that sounds great. Let's do that. So I pick places based on something I want to do, and then I go there. I would say is the primary reason I end up in a location.
Yeah,
Once I get there, the places that I love are all about the people that I meet. Interesting food, but it's always the people. If I don't meet interesting people, I come home and I typically say the trip was nice, but not phenomenal. If I'm not meeting locals, I'm not meeting other travelers, I'm not learning something about the culture and the people, then I typically will say that was fine. That was a vacation. That there's a difference between vacation and travel to me. So
okay. So what would be some of your more memorable trips?
I as as far as a westernized country, being in Salzburg, Austria, I spent several weeks in Salzburg, having the lakes. I had access to a motorcycle. I met a couple of locals, and that was a phenomenal experience to spend basically an entire summer in Salzburg because I didn't have to leave. I was just long-term travel, and 2 or 3 days ended up into 2 or 3 weeks, ended up to basically a whole summer. As far as something a little more off the beaten path, Botswana. And Botswana, the reason I love that is because you have the Okavango Delta and you have all of the animals living in, not all of them, but you can go on safari in the Okavango Delta where they live in and around water, which on the plains and the savanna, there's not a lot of water. So having
Yep.
these animals adapted to the Okavango Delta is phenomenal. I also found the people in Botswana very kind and very generous and genuine. And my understanding is that in Botswana, it's typically one tribe that there's only one tribe that lives in the country. So you have never had the warring tribes or the animosity between the different people. And you can feel the calm and the just kind of relaxed attitude in Botswana that you don't feel in other African countries.
Okay,
So I'd
great.
say those are the top two.
No, very good
Probably.
options. So, what about the most challenging travel experience?
Challenging for me would be Tunisia or Jordan or Morocco. I am 5'11" and blonde, and it sometimes is just hard. Sometimes being a girl is just hard. And going to Tunisia was extremely challenging. I went there years ago. But it was extremely challenging. I rented a car and I was with a couple other travelers, but it's just hard work. You have to watch what you're doing, watch where you're going, pay attention to things more so than you do in some other countries, I just find. So going across the sort of Middle East style of a country, going to Egypt, those are probably Jordan, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia were the hardest countries for me to travel through.
Yeah.
And I traveled in all but one on my own. So for me, when I'm traveling in Middle Eastern style countries, if I'm on my own, I want to meet somebody almost immediately, whether it's a fellow traveler or end up getting a guide that can help me along the way. It just makes life easier.
Understood. Can imagine the challenge. Those countries sometimes are a little bit difficult for Westerners.
Yeah. I
So,
love them. I keep going back. They're just harder work, you
yes.
know?
So, what about adventures? You've already mentioned you're a bungee jumper now, scuba diver. What other things have you kind of crossed off the list?
I really enjoy hiking. I hiked Mont Blanc last year. I've hiked in Nepal, the Annapurna Ranges. Um, I've hiked all over the US. I don't pack in. I'm a day hiker, but I love to be up in the mountains, and I just love being up in the mountains hiking. I'm also a snow skier and I ski every year. So I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore survivalist style,
Yeah,
but I am extremely active. Like I flew to New Zealand just so I could go bungee jump with someone. I met them in Zambia and they wouldn't bungee jump with me in Zambia. So I flew to New Zealand, went to Queenstown, and I bungee jumped and I skydived and I did all of that. So I love the adventure sports and adventure things.
no,
I'm always
cool.
going to find something to do where I'm going. So,
No, brilliant.
yeah.
So I've looked at your website and then I've noted you're into bucket lists.
Yeah.
You have a bucket list on the list.
Like 100 things long.
So yes, so you're obviously a big believer in having a bucket list.
Yeah.
So what recommendation would you have to people who don't have a bucket list?
Make one. And your bucket list doesn't just have to be about travel. Your bucket list should be what your desires are. If you desire to buy a house, if you desire to paint a mural, if you desire to go to Namibia and surf one of the sand dunes, which is on my bucket list. You have to have, in my opinion, you have to have those types of things in writing or they'll never get done. It's basically writing goals for your dreams is what I think a bucket list actually is. And if you don't write it down, then I don't think it'll happen. So mine is not only written down, but it is published. So I got, you can put my feet to the fire.
Yeah. So that would be another recommendation for you as well. So writing it down is possibly not sufficient, but if you kind of like share it with your friends or make it somewhat public, then at least you're going to be held accountable.
Yeah. At least it's out there. You've put it out to the universe and you've said, I declare that I want whatever that is. I mean, you could go want to plant a garden, whatever your goals and dreams are, and there's no wrong answer. It's your life. And that's the whole point. We're supposed to live the life that we should be living, not what someone told us we should be living or what we were raised to believe our life is supposed to be. There was a good friend of mine in Telluride, Colorado, and we were sitting at the bar at the New Sheridan one night. And he said to me, he goes, you know what? Why do we have to follow plan A? There are 25 other letters to the alphabet. And I thought, that is awesome. That's an amazing analogy, a great thing to say, because he's a traveler, I'm a traveler. And being in the U.S., when I say at this point, I've been to like 63, 64 countries. And when I say that and I say, yes, I'm going to Namibia for vacation instead of I'm going to Galveston, Texas for vacation, people think I've lost my ever-loving mind. So, it's just my choice. And it's the life that I choose to live rather than what my parents said I was supposed to live or my friends think I'm supposed to be doing instead.
No, very true. So on that note, what are the next things on your bucket list? So what things are you going to check off next?
Well, this year had a lot of things on the bucket list that obviously did not happen. Namibia is probably number one on my bucket list. I really want to go back to Africa and I really want to go to Namibia. I want to see the animals in the desert. I want to see the sand people. I want to go to the Skeleton Coast. I want to self-drive in Namibia. That's probably number one. Number two, I'd like to go to Colombia. It's been a while since I've been anywhere in South America. So I think that Colombia would be, and I'd like to spend, 2-3 weeks there and see the coast of the interior, Medellin,
Yep.
Cali and everything. So those are probably my two at the top of my list today.
Okay. Very good. Very diverse as well. 2 different continents.
Mm-hmm.
So very cool. So what would you say to someone kind of, I think we were talking about this with the bucket list. There are a lot of people who are potentially sitting there like very unfulfilled, not feeling their lives are very meaningful. They have passions, they have dreams, they have ideas and things they would like to do, but they're a little bit scared to take the next step. They come up with a bunch of excuses, they're worried. They, like you mentioned before, they may go, well, it's going to cost me a lot of money. I'm going to have to give up of, something to do this. So what would you say to them?
A couple of things. First is to set a date. Set an actual date. Either buy the plane ticket or set the date. If it's a triathlon you want to do, go ahead and sign up for that triathlon. Whatever it is that is your dream, go ahead and set a date for that. Then if it's financial that you're worried about, I have had for years, I have a jar sitting on my kitchen counter and every day I put money in it and it's my travel fund. It's not necessarily that $12 at the end of the month is going to get me anywhere. It's just the thought process that every day I'm working towards the dream of going somewhere, because that's, my dreams are basically built around what I want to see in the world. I've been lucky enough to accomplish a lot of business goals and personal goals, but what makes me happy and what lights me up is travel. So every day it may be $1, it may be $0.25, but it's just the process of putting money away, psychologically putting money away so I have money to travel with.
No, very good advice. Having a plan, like a goal to go to, and then having a plan. Um, Otherwise, you're never going to achieve your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's lead into what's your definition of living your best life?
Doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, as long as you want.
Very good. So it's pretty similar to mine. But what are your tips for anyone to achieve that?
I'm a firm believer in passive income. So find ways that you can pay your expenses without having to trade your time for money. Whether it's outside investments, whether it's the stock market, whether it's real estate, whatever you can come up with, to create passive income. That way you have the freedom to spend time on your dreams. You have the freedom to go and you have the money to do it. And I think that's extremely important. And it's not in the US at least, it's not a cultural thing to have passive income. Our culture is work, 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 take 2 weeks off, maybe. And then work, 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 work. And then retire. And then, you're too tired
Yeah,
to do anything. So
definitely not a good plan. So 2 weeks doesn't get you much these days.
yeah.
Um,
No.
so tell us a little bit about the abundant traveler. So, how did you come up with the idea? Well, you kind of mentioned that, I guess. Um, so, in your audience is definitely the over 50 crowd. And so, what is it you're hoping people get out of looking at your blog and your YouTube videos?
The brand name came, it took me about 9 months. I know it sounds funny. It took me about 9 months to come up with abundant and traveler in the same sentence. Um, but the goal is fulfilling travel. And having abundance when you travel, and what brings you joy and happiness and gives you light and lifts you up when you travel. My primary goal is to inspire and encourage people to travel. Our generation wasn't allowed to travel in I would definitely say in a North American culture. In Australia and New Zealand, people were always allowed to do walkabout for a couple of years. When I first moved overseas, everyone thought I had lost my ever loving mind. They're like, "What do you mean? What are you going to do? What's your career?" And I said I was going to be a temp secretary in London. And they said, "Have you lost your mind?" And that's accepted. In some cultures, it's not accepted in North America. It's becoming more accepted for a younger generation. But if you're 40 and 50, we've never been told it's okay to drop everything and go somewhere and do something. We've also never been told that it's okay to do what makes you happy. We were told, go grow up, go to high school, go to college, get a job, get married, have kids, have a house, 2 cars, get promoted, maybe go back to college again, maybe, but keep working, 65, retire. And then you can see what life is going to bring. So that the inspiration to go and the permission to go. I love giving people permission that they can go do what makes them happy. And also the YouTube videos, instead of most of the younger generation talk about, well, I had bagels for breakfast and I put cream cheese on it. It's really hard to be 50 and talking about what I ate for breakfast unless it's some amazing, incredible local breakfast or some amazing breakfast. My goal with the videos is to provide value to make your travel easier wherever you are going. So there's lots of tips, there's lots of tricks, there's lots of hacks, there's suggestions. It's not just, hey, I'm out here going around and this is what I did today. My goal is to be more valuable than that and to make their travel easy, or easier at least.
So no, very good. So how long have you actually had the YouTube channel running for?
2.5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So
It's a lot of fun, but I tell you what, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. but I love it. It makes me so happy. It's my side hustle. It makes me so happy. So I just got back from Oaxaca and I shot 2 videos while I was there. And, you know, there are a lot of people that won't go to Mexico and feel that they don't, you know, there are things saying it's not safe. Well, I had the most wonderful time in Oaxaca, and I cannot wait to talk about Oaxaca on YouTube. I can't wait to put it out there. And as it turns out, Oaxaca is Travel and Leisure's #1 place to go for 2020. It was amazing. People were amazing. Food was amazing. Culturally, it was amazing. It was fantastic. And it was a hop, skip, and a jump away from where I live. So.
Okay. So how about you give a little bit more of a plug for Oaxaca? Because I've never heard of it actually because
Oh, you haven't?
no, I've been to Mexico a couple of times, but I've never been there. So
I feel like I am Mexico's biggest cheerleader because I go 3 to 4 times a year.
yeah.
I've actually been this year during COVID. I was in Mexico twice before lockdown. I've been to Mexico twice since. Oaxaca is a city in the state of Oaxaca, and it's actually one of the poor states in the southwest corner of Mexico. And the city of Oaxaca is a colonial city. It's where mezcal comes from. It's also the culinary capital of Mexico. So all the famous moles, the black mole, the red mole, the green mole, all of those originate in Oaxaca. People are phenomenal. There's great textile shopping if you're a shopper. The hotels are fantastic. The people were so kind to us. It is a city, I think in Mexico, you need a little bit of Spanish. It is less tourists in Oaxaca. So if you have a little bit of Spanish, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was fantastic. It's been like 7 years since I was there, but it was a great trip. And I was just there last week. So go to Oaxaca.
Okay, very good.
Plug for Oaxaca, Mexico.
Yeah.
Plug for Mexico in general. Go to Mexico. It's amazing.
No, definitely.
And right now it's still amazing. They're very safe about protocols and sanitizer and masks and all of that. Most of the places that I've been, and I felt as safe, if not safer, in Mexico the past couple of months than I have in my own hometown.
Okay. No, very good plug. So definitely now I'm going to have to check out Oaxaca. So never been there, so definitely on the list. So to finish, well, we're getting close to finishing up. So there's a question we were discussing before we actually had the interview, which is all related to over 40-year-olds. There's a lot of over 40 people reaching or approaching 40 who, you know, kind of view it with a little bit of trepidation. They're going, oh my God, it's all downhill from 40. You know, obviously us being over the 50 mark now, we have a kind of different perspective. So I'd like you to share your perspective for these people who are approaching 40. You know, what do you think about, you know, this over 40 kind of bad rap?
The best thing that happened to me was I turned 40. There's a sense of peace that comes along with being 40. You have been busting your tail in your career, and you start to think about what's important to you rather than what's important to other people. And I noticed in my 40s, I started going back to what excited me when I was 4 and 5 years old, which I know sounds strange, but what we loved to do when we were little kids, it's still in us. It was what we loved to do when we were 4, 5, 6, and 7 is who we actually are, not who we were taught to be. And I would say starting with 40, that comes back, and there's just a sense of peace. And I can tell you, I turned 50 this year, right before COVID, and whatever they say happens when you turn 50, that you don't care about what anybody thinks anymore, it's happening. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's happening. It's so weird. I didn't do it. It just kind of came about one day. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to go, this is life I want to live for the rest of my life, not what you're telling me to live. So it's weird. Turning 50 has been weird. And it's also strange to say I'm 50. I mean, who would have thunk?
Yeah, we've got to find a way to kind of change our birthdays, because this number doesn't really kind of relate to how we're living life, does it?
No. It does not. You know, we think about what our parents were doing at 50 and our grandparents were doing at 50, and I remember looking at them, and especially my grandparents, I felt like at 50, they were on the tail end of their life. They were settling down, sitting in the Burka lounger and watching TV, and I'm ready to go jump out of a plane again or some, well, not exactly, but close enough.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. No, very true. No, I went through the same. Like 50, I did the trifecta in Queenstown. I did the skydiving, hang gliding, and bungee jumping as well. So didn't feel any different when I first did it when I was 30. So I don't think age is really a limit. So I think they
No.
had a record there. There was some guy who was like in his 90s who bungee jumped. So, you know, proof positive. You can do it at any age.
Yeah. Bungee jumping, I did it twice. Check, next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely don't have
Next.
to do it next.
There's so many things to do in this world, so many places to see, so many, things to jump off of, hikes to take, airplanes to fly in, camels to ride. I mean, it's just crazy. There's so much to do if that's what you love to do,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. So to close out, what are 3 life lessons you've learned in your life journey that you think would be of value to other people?
Give yourself permission to do what you want. Give yourself permission to live the life that you want is number one. Number two is life lessons, create passive income. It relieves a lot of stress in the long haul. And number three, it's up to you to make yourself happy and to find joy in your life. It's not up to somebody else. Somebody else can't bring it to you. It's up to you. So back to number one, do what makes you happy.
Very good points. So, well, thank you very much, Kim. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. There's a lot of people, I'm sure, who will be inspired by our conversation. So, how about telling us how people can find you online?
Yeah. YouTube is The Abundant Traveler, and Instagram is also The Abundant Traveler. Also, the website is The Abundant Traveler. So if you want to find me, just look for The Abundant Traveler and you'll find me. And hopefully the information that is out there that I put is of value and inspires you to go somewhere and see something new and makes your travels easier. So
Very good.
I hope that's the goal.
I'm sure it will. Well, thank you very much. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Yeah, it's been a real treat. Thank you. And I'm excited to be part of this group because I'm ready for legend life after 40.
Thank
For
you.
sure. All right. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.